Hello and good afternoon. Hope you're having a wonderful Monday. This is Lieutenant Michael Flynn. I'm a conductor with the Band of the West. I'm Flight Commander and Associate Conductor with the Band of the West, located in San Antonio, Texas. Yeah, we just got a message that says reconnection successful. So what I'm actually going to be doing is checking to make sure that this is working. Yeah, I've got some nice, yes, excellent. Looks like it is going on. Looks like I only stared blankly at the screen for a very short amount of time. Now, more importantly than ever, if you could let us know that you're watching and where you're watching from, and also that this is working, because it had a little bit of a crash and it's reconnected. Looks like it is doing okay, which is really, really good. So, again, I'm Michael Flynn, Lieutenant Michael Flynn, stationed with the United States Air Force Band of the West in San Antonio, Texas. We've got someone watching from Texas, someone else watching from Canada, watching from Cape Cod. Let us know that this is working. Sorry about the little crash and failure. I'm sure it will not be the last electronic thing that doesn't work. James Campbell, thank you so much for checking out the video. So we're going to be talking about some batons today and the conductor's baton. If you have questions, go ahead and put them in the comment section. I can actually read along the comment section as we go. If you're watching this in not live, you can write to me your questions and conductingquestions@gmail.com. Hopefully you'll be able to see that as well. From Iowa, welcome. So glad that you are checking this out. Hopefully we can give you some information that's useful for you. So here we go. Today we're going to be talking about the baton. We're talking about my baton, some of the other individuals' batons, choices and styles. We're going to talk about personal history and choices. That's what I've used in my career. I actually have some input from Major Dustin Doyle, who is the commander at the Band of the West in San Antonio, Texas. He's going to have a video clip, which hopefully it works. We'll be able to hear from him about his choices as well. And also, I'd like to let you know that there's a lot of information in this presentation about the baton and history and items, and there's references and additional reading available. If you'd like a list of all the references that I used to compile the information for this particular presentation, go ahead and write to me at conductingquestions@gmail.com requesting those references and additional reading materials. I would be thrilled to send those out to you. There's a lot of information, and so we want to make sure that that's available to you, that you know where I'm getting this information from. So, history and evolution of the baton. And again, if you're just tuning in, thanks so much for bearing with a little bit of a crash there as well, and thanks for tuning in. Go ahead and put down where you're watching from. It helps us connect with you, the people who are consuming this video. So, in the beginning of the baton usage, middle to the 18th century, and now don't panic, this is only one little slide of information. It's about 8 minutes, and it's a it's like Cliff Notes. It's a Cliff Notes version of this, and if you don't know what Cliff Notes is, it's a little mini version of the book that you're supposed to read and do your report on in middle school. But you didn't want to read the book, so you got the yellow book. Is it Cliff Notes? I think it's Cliff Notes. Anyway, so this is the Cliff Notes version. Middle Ages to 18th century. They started out by having someone stand in front of a group, and they actually didn't have notation, so they moved their hands to show the melodic line of the music. Now, at the time in the Middle Ages, the music wasn't that complicated, so this worked out really, really well. Except the people wanted to know who was in charge, and so they gave them a staff to hold on to in the Middle Ages. I just can't think of anything else. So the person with the staff is in charge. The person who's holding it, it goes, I think, to if you're in some type of an organized situation and you walk around with a pen, maybe a pencil behind your ear and a clipboard with some paper on it, you kind of look at it, people say, oh, this person is in charge. So they give these people staffs to hold on to so people would know who was in charge of the group. So this worked out great, and then the music became more complicated. And so as the music became more complicated and they wanted to coordinate more than one part, they started banging the staff on the ground in time each note that they were supposed to be singing on. So the staff developed into a timekeeping element, which is great. And the staff banging to the ground is a great idea, except for this guy named Jean-Baptiste Lully, who is a composer who wrote a very fantastic piece called Te Deum. And it was written to commemorate the Louis XIV's recovery from surgery. And so he was doing this performance, he was all excited, and he was banging on the floor, and he actually stabbed his toe. with the staff, the conducting staff. Very dangerous. And so after he stabbed his toe, he refused to get any type of treatment. He got gangrene and he died. So don't stab your toe while you're doing this. Oh, yes. So, yeah, if you have a walkie-talkie and a clipboard and a pencil, then everybody knows you're in charge, absolutely. And it's wonderful to be able to see that this is working. Go ahead and let me know if you have any questions about what I'm talking about, if I can expand on anything for you, and if you have any thoughts about your batons. And if you're a director, if you wanted to let us know what kind of batons you're using, I'd be happy to talk about them as we go forward. So they decided that the staff wasn't so good when he stabbed himself and died. So they decided to do something different. And in the 18th century, they had usually a harpsichord, which is kind of like a piano, except piano, the hammers bang on the strings and they create vibrations in the sound. The harpsichord, they actually had a little hook inside and they plucked the strings. And so it sounds kind of like a really, really big guitar. And so the harpsichordist oftentimes would sit in the front of the ensemble, and then when everyone's supposed to play, they kind of said, okay, da-da-da-da-da-da, play. Because they could nod their head up and down while they're playing, and oftentimes it was the composer who was doing this. That worked out great. And if the harpsichordist had really complicated lines, there was this person called the concertmaster, and the concertmaster is going to be the first violin player. And so the first violin player would oftentimes, if they were playing, they'd be playing along, and then, oh, play here, oh, play here. And they realized that that's not very effective, so what else can we use? And in their right hand, fortuitously, they had a stick, and the stick was the violin bow. And so that was an easy way to tell people when it was time to play. This was wonderful, as long as the music wasn't too complicated and there weren't too many people. So if there's just a concertmaster and there were 4 rows in the orchestra, maybe it's difficult to see the concertmaster. So what were they going to do to kind of solve this problem? Well, early conductors were also composers. So we had in the late 1700s, Mozart and Haydn started conducting their own works. And they used all kinds of things. They would use kind of short sticks, they would use rolls of paper, and they used all kinds of different items and decided that, we need something that's a little bit easier to see for the ensemble. What can we do? And so they started using the conducting baton. So a lot of people say, well, what about left-handed people? Well, left-handed people usually conduct with the right hand, because at all of this evolution of the baton, from the harpsichordist, the violin right hand, the signals, and the staff that you'd use to bang into the ground was all done with the right hand. There are conductors who are left-handed. For instance, Frank Ticheli, who writes a lot of wonderful band music, conducts left-handed. Now, it's kind of a weird, jarring experience sitting in the ensemble and looking at this and saying, well, what is that person doing up there, holding everything in a different hand? But it's something that you can get used to. So some people do conduct left-handed. I conduct with my right hand. In the 19th century, you had individuals who actually started interpreting the music and showing the individuals not only where to play, but how to play. And their music was very intensely complicated. You had Hector Berlioz, and you had Richard Wagner and Gustav Mahler. And this caricature that you see over here on the side is of Gustav Mahler and his conducting gestures. And they make these gestures so that they indicate, they transmit to the musicians what the music should sound like, actually in their mind. We got another comment here. So might have used 2 rolls of paper to beat tempo. It's Audible Pulse was also in use. Thank you so much, Raphael. Thank you for checking out the stream and your input as well. There's and he puts in, there's lots of evidence to suggest. And actually, going back to the Mozart and the Haydn first times that they were conducting, the only way that we have kind of an inkling that they started doing this was that sources suggest. So in other words, on the posters for those particular concerts, both of those individuals were featured as holding a baton and conducting the orchestra. So those are the types of things, as Raphael indicates here, it's that you have different evidence suggesting this, iconographic, so images that are showing that this might happen. So fantastic, thanks for the input there as well. So Mahler is going to be somebody who is used as a caricature because his conducting gestures were, as you can see, they're very extensive, and he had a wide vocabulary, and his music is also very extensive and requires a wide vocabulary. So you have composers who are shaping the music, conductors who are shaping the music. Absolutely. Okay, so choices and styles. And we'll go back and try and catch one of these ideas here as well. Penderecki conducted left-handed. Oh, yes. So Penderecki, he did the Threnody to Hiroshima, which is his big, I believe, his big claim to fame, and he was conducted left-handed as well. So, composer, I think he died this year, actually. This year, very recently, perhaps this year. I'm sure Raphael will let us know in the comment section as well. I'm pretty sure it's this year. So, if you look at choices in different styles, Toscanini had a series of conducting batons, and this kind of goes from the late 19th into the mid 20th century. Now you can see here you have a few different options that went through, all the way from just a stick to something that had an item on which you could hold. Now, as this year, 8 weeks ago, thank you very much. So that's right. So if you have not ever heard the Threnody by Penderecki, please check it out on YouTube. There's a fantastic one where they actually use colors to show the different parts of the score. Now, this may be different music than you're used to, but you could actually check it out, and it sounds like horror movie music. Check it out. So going back to these batons here, the development of them kind of goes from top to bottom, and the last baton on the bottom was actually manufactured in the 1940s. So you can kind of see how the ones on the top just don't look very comfortable to me. The one on the bottom looks very similar to the ones that we have today. So I'm going to show some examples of these. These aren't the ones that I currently use, but something like this kind of matches along with the baton that you see on the bottom there. Actually, my batons are just over here. I'm going to go grab them, so don't go anywhere. And here they are. So we're going to be talking about these here just shortly. So there's lots of different choices and different styles that you can pick from. And it is a little bit kind of like Harry Potter, where the wizard doesn't pick the wand picks the wizard. And I think that a lot of people's individual choices and styles have to do with the ones that they started using first. And so for me, I kind of stick along with the same general form that I used when I was just learning, although I've made some pretty big adjustments, and some pretty big adjustments recently, trying to find a baton that is most well suited for a general need. Let's look at other options and choices and styles, including a number of batons that I've used along the way. So batons are made by a variety of different material. You can have wood, fiberglass, graphite, carbon fiber, and you can also ask for ones that have visual contrast. You can see that all the batons in the picture, and here they are here, that are all white batons. Now, if I move myself out of the way just slightly, you can see that they don't show up too well against an all-white background. So individuals sometimes have different colored baton shafts, and the shafts, I have had a couple of them that are actually made out of wood, and different types of wood. They can be painted over with a white paint, or they can be left natural as well. So you can have different options. Now, these are just kind of a general set of guidelines. You can have a baton made out of anything you want, really anything you want. There's some evidence that there's baton handles that are crafted with diamonds and anything that you like. So they're usually 12 to 16 inches, but can be 10 to 24 inches, depending on what you might want to be doing. And when I say what you might want to be doing, I am kind of talking to the fact that a different size of ensemble indicates it's maybe a slightly different baton size. So if your ensemble is only 8 players, maybe you don't need a gigantic baton, 20-inch baton, 16-inch baton. But if you're conducting a giant orchestra, perhaps you'd like to have a longer baton, an extension of what you're doing with your arm to show the musicians. Why would you want to have a longer baton? Well, because some of the musicians might be 20 or 30 yards away from you, that you need to actually show a little bit clearer, and having a longer baton will actually help that. So you also have different handle materials like woods or metals and different shapes. You can actually make the handles out of anything that you like. There's a number of companies that make them that are single piece batons made out of one continuous piece of wood, and there's some companies that make metallic handle batons. I know that a number of my colleagues enjoy the metallic handle baton. So there's lots of different options for you. So for example, you can also have things that were made out of a variety of different materials that are all glued together and then shaped. So the baton on your far left is actually one of these, and I actually have it here as well. Now this isn't a baton that I actually use, but it is actually made out of a number of different woods that have been stained and colored and then put together. Because a lot of initial purchases of batons are based on aesthetics, and mine was as well, and I'll talk about that in just a little bit. So pricing, you can get a baton on Amazon, you can throw it in there. Amazon, you can actually get a baton on Amazon for like $4 or $5, or you can get things that are up to $400, $500, $600, as much as you want to pay, depending on who's making the baton and what kind of style you want and what you want it to be made out of. For instance, if you had this baton here and you wanted the shaft to be made out of like some carbon fiber thing, and then you wanted the handle here to be made out of diamonds and gold, then that will drive the price of the baton up. So the question is, will it work just as well as this one? And the answer is maybe. So anytime you have a piece of equipment, you give some type of compromise. You think about cars, right? So you can have a car that goes really, really fast, but it uses up a ton of gas. Or you can have a car that's not really, really powerful, but you get to not use any gas. It's an eco-friendly car. So there's always some type of a balancing act, and you finding the right ones for you is really, really, really important. So we're going to actually hear from the commander here in just a second. I hope it works. But we'll take a look at this comment here. Raphael, thanks again for your input. Berlioz and Mendelssohn once exchanged batons. What a scene. I think that sounds fantastic. I am not aware of that. Barker moves with ivory gold accents. Oh, Marshall Staff. I'm going to look into that and check it out. If you have actually a link to that story, if you could put it in the comment section, I'll be able to find it nicely later, or you can just send it to conductingquestions@gmail.com. I'd love to check it out. Thank you for sharing that as well. So the next portion here is a new feature that I'm trying in this streaming software, and that is putting a video into the slideshow. So it's about 1.5 minutes long. It involves our commander, Major Dustin Doyle. He is the commander at the Band of the West, based out of San Antonio, Texas. Fantastic musician. Really lucky to have his input into this baton discussion. It's about 1.5 minutes long. I have about a 30-second delay on the comments. So if anybody can see this and also hear what he's saying, let me know. Let me know. Oh, thanks for putting that in there. Harold Schoenberg, the great conductors. Thank you so much. I will definitely check that out. Also, if you can hear this next portion, let me know so that we know that you can hear it. Otherwise, I'll just kind of summarize what he's talking about. All right, so thank you, Aaron Flynn, for letting me know that there's no sound. I'm going to try it again, and then there's one other element that we'll check out with the audio, and if not, I will try and summarize what he has to say. So let's try it from here.
Hey, good afternoon. Thanks for letting me chime in on this discussion about batons. So I'll just let you know real quick what I use. These are the two basic batons that I use throughout my career. One is made of acrylic, so essentially a bowling ball, and you can see kind of like the teardrop shape. So for me, that just fits nicely in my hand. The balance is nice and towards the handle. Has a little bit more substance than, say, like a cork handle, and so that's just what I prefer, what I go for. The length of this, the length of the stick or the baton is 13.5 inches. And for me, that's a good use for the concert band setting when I'm in front of the large groups. The next one that I have here, it's a wood handle, and this is a 12-inch baton, so it's slightly smaller. And I like to use the smaller one. There you go. You can see the difference there for chamber ensembles. And so for the smaller groups where it's maybe a little bit more intimate setting, get you a little bit closer. Similar to our teardrop, but not quite the same. Again, these are Newland batons. I didn't say that. But that's just the ones that felt good when I picked it up and started using. And those are the characteristics that I look for.
All right, so it looks like that worked, which is fantastic. Thank you, Commander Doyle, Major Doyle, for having your input into this discussion. It's so wonderful to be able to be working with another conductor, and he's teaching me all kinds of wonderful things about the Air Force and Air Force conducting. He's a fantastic mentor, and it's just fantastic to have his input as well. Many people are isolated as conductors. For example, if you teach at a university, or perhaps you're an orchestra director, you may not have the convenience and the luxury of speaking to another conductor every day. It's amazing. So thank you, Major Doyle, for coming in and letting us hear your views on this. Fantastic. So we heard a little bit about Major Doyle's choices, and he talked about a couple different handles. An acrylic handle is another one, and he also talked about the length of the batons as well. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about my first decisions, and I have my first baton right here with me. Now the one you see on the bottom of the screen is the one that I currently use. So this one here is my very first one. Now it's really awkward because it's facing the wrong direction based on the thing on the screen, so I'm going to face this one this way. So this was my very first baton, and it's actually made out of wood, and you can see that the wood is actually warped. Crooked, actually, as I'm looking down here. Maybe that just looks really weird to you, but it is actually warped, and that is one of the drawbacks of the wooden shafted baton. But you can get new ones. So I had this one, and the reason I purchased this one, I went to this Newland Baton Company. So there's many choices of batons, and there's tons of choices. You can find all kinds of elements and different manufacturers and different baton makers, and so this one just happens to be a Newland baton. So I found this when I was in school, and we went to I believe it was a large conference, and they had a table of them. I thought this was the most wonderful thing ever. There was all kinds of different batons, and I got this one because I liked how it looked. And I didn't really know anything about how it felt. And now picking it up, it's extraordinarily lightweight. But I was like, this looks pretty cool, and the handle looks really neat. So that's why I bought the first one. And I think that's an important thing to think about, is that if you're looking to get a baton, get something that you like. Get something that you think is pretty. Get something that you're going to enjoy using. You can always get another one later on, and I think when I bought this was like $20 or something like that. So this was the first kind that I ever had. I eventually moved to get a number of different ones with fiberglass and graphite shafts. You can see that all the handles are very similar. They just happen to be different colors, and they're slightly different sizes as well. Now I thought I really liked this shape, and I actually still do really like this shape. However, I have extraordinarily long fingers. Thanks a lot, Mom and Dad. So I have really long fingers. So actually when I grip the baton handle, the handle isn't able to seat in my hand at all. And so I was doing a lot of stuff that involved having the baton kind of up here in my hand. Now, this works for some people, but for me personally, this wasn't working. And I was very fortunate to have a great teacher in Catherine Wren at the University of Southern Mississippi who worked with me extensively on baton grip and baton hold and how it looked and what I was doing with my hand and how efficient I was being with my motions, and that helped me make some decisions about what type of baton that I wanted to get next. Now I have a couple other ones here. This one's a Mullard baton. I got this as a present after I was done student teaching in Owego, New York with Dan Fabricius. So Dan Fabricius is a wonderful band director out there in Owego, New York, and I got this as a gift. And so this is just a different type of a handle, and it's actually also a different type of shaft as well. So it just has a different feel to it. So we talked a lot about how these items affect balance, and so if you hold them, you have the balance point of the baton. Let's see if I can do this here. This one is a little bit further out. Andrew Hunter, welcome. Hey, Andrew, we'd love to hear your input on what type of baton you use and actually how long yours is and the type of material that it's made out of. It's wonderful to see you. And thanks again for your Kentucky 1800 recommendation. Great video last week. So thanks to Andrew. He's a university band director in Texas. So this one has a balance like here. And the one that I'm currently using, the balance point is a little bit closer to the handle, which is exactly what I was trying to do. Balancing it. Public balancing. It's very, very exciting. So this particular one that I have here, you can see that the handle is quite a bit longer than the one that I started with. And this actually helps me to be able to see the bottom of the baton into the palm of my hand and use the muscles here, where my index finger and thumb are gripping the end of the baton, more efficiently in my control of it. I could even, one of the exercises my conducting teacher had me do, and probably maybe Andrew too, you could let us know, is that she had me write my name in cursive with just the tip. And so using these two fingers to just control the tip of it to Michael Flynn. Y, the Y is loopy, Y. So anyway, so this baton also has a weighting method where the brass is put into the bottom of the baton in order to change the balance point and how much the baton actually weighs. So this particular baton is much heavier than the one, and it looks different than the one in the picture, but this is the same as the one in the picture. Oh, there we go. That lighted me. It looks a little bit, looks the same. So yeah, so these are the type of batons that I'm actually using right now, and they're very, very comfortable. I like using them. They're happen to be made by a company called Custom Batons, and again, they just happen to be a company that my teacher said you should check this company out, so I did. And I have a number of these, and the weighting of them is what I enjoy the most. So the changes that we got a comment from Andrew. Oh, he also has one of these. 15 and a quarter inch custom baton made by Chris Brown. Graphite shaft, so less whip, exactly. Thank you so much for including that. That is something I didn't talk about the fiberglass and the graphite, the difference between the fiberglass and the graphite shafts as well. So less whip effect at fast tempi. The thread wrapping at the fulcrum to secure up the grip when the hands sweaty, of course. Thank you so much for your input, Andrew. I really appreciate it. So what he's talking about on the thread, which conveniently I have one that has a thread here, it has thread at the end of the handle. And so this one happens to have green thread. And it's like sewing thread. And all it does is give you a little bit of grip here, as he says, when your hands are getting sweaty. So this is an optional item. I don't particularly like this one, this particular type, this baton, but the weighting of the baton I don't quite like. It doesn't fit in my hand very well, and I find that the thread on the edge of it actually is abrasive to my skin where that touches. But that's just me, and that's my own personal opinion. We all have different opinions about it, but it's really great to see that you can see that everybody who's conducting has a slightly different opinion about what they're going to be using and what feels comfortable to them as well. And Andrew, if you're still there, let me know if you use a teardrop one or like a bulb one here, or more of an hourglass, or you can also get ones that look like little marbles, just a marble on the end of it there. So Raphael, thank you again for your input. Casal's baton. So Pablo Casals is going to be a cellist. If you haven't heard his Bach cello suites, you should definitely check it out. But he's also a wonderful conductor as well. There's a wonderful book about that as well. So if you, Brandon Shaver, welcome. It's wonderful that you're here, seeing what I'm doing right now. Let me know how you're doing. I hope you and your family are doing just brilliantly. This is my roommate from officer training school. So wonderful to see you. So Casal's baton is beatwise arm's length. Yep. Had it at arm's length. I'm going up in the comment here to the aforementioned a wooden shaft model, as well as to stand out against a white shirt. Frequently people who are going to do anything in orchestral pits, again, you look at the background of what the conductor is going to be at. A dark colored shaft of the baton wouldn't be very, very good at all. So yes, it's great to see you. Best to your family. So Tyler Jordan, thank you for checking out this video as well. So as I've said, I've got lots of different options here. Now, they're kind of like golf clubs. You start out and you're like, oh, this is my favorite putter. And then you're like, oh, no, we don't want that anymore. No, this one's good. It makes the line go straighter. And then you're like, oh, no, this one. And then it's like, oh, this one's easier to line up. Oh, it's too short. And then, oh, yeah, this one's going to be great. It's whippier, right? It's got a greater... So it's a constant tinkering. However, I find that these particular ones, this one that I'm have from Custom Batons that I've been using, works well with me physically, which is what I work with my teacher at the University of Southern Mississippi so extensively on, is trying to be a healthy conductor. And this, having it be able to fit into the palm of my hand, and then using the smaller muscles here to control the finer gestures of it, seem to be much better for me personally. So Angel Velez, Dave Newman says first we used one that was almost 2 feet long. So yeah, feel the weight. You could actually feel different items are how you want to practice as well. Different practice tools. We talked about using your conducting pattern up against a wall with a pencil. A different idea, different feeling of flex. So Andrew Hunter as well. One that says teardrop style shape, and the one that Chris calls Maestro. Yes, that's right. So the Maestro shape. Let's see, rest ring, place the middle finger, keep the grip consistent. So the Maestro shape has actually a little bit of it looks kind of like this one, except the part very, very close up here is much bigger so that you can rest your fingers here. There's also a famous conductor, Los Angeles Philharmonic, Gustavo Dudamel, who uses one that is just a little ball. So it looks like this except for a ping pong ball on the end of it. Just a little ping pong ball. Stuart Johnson, I hope you're doing brilliantly. Hope you're doing great, and best to your family as well. Thanks for checking it out. So, similar, yeah, it's very similar to this. It's a larger size here. So, if we have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comment section. We'll try and address them as we go. Also, I wanted to cycle back a little bit to the left-handed conductor element. So, left-handed conductors, it's again a little bit of a trade-off. So, I have a twin sister who's a wonderful band director in Pine Creek High School. It's in Colorado, and she's left-handed. She holds the baton in the right hand and does all of her expressive gestures in her left hand. So she is actually very, very graceful with her left hand in ways that I always want to be very graceful, and she's able to do this because left is her dominant hand. So again, there are some people who conduct left-handed. If you can think of any of the people who are watching this in the comment section, let me know what you think. Let me know who are missing. I know Frank DeKelly is one of them. And so it's a little bit weird if you're sitting in the band and you're used to seeing this, and then all of a sudden you see this. It's a little weird. I can't even do this without pretending to hold my baton over here as well. And so it's something that you do on you get used to, but it's not something that's kind of the norm as well. Raphael uses a 14-inch graphite with a ball grip. Okay, yeah, that's exactly the kind we were talking about. Is the one that has, it's like a little ping pong ball. Or a cork ball. It's like a little wine cork, except it's completely cylindrical. And there's different advantages and disadvantages to whatever you do. Finding the one that's right for you is important, and also trying to use one that helps with your strengths and weaknesses in conducting. As like, for example, I was having a lot of trouble in using all kinds of excessive motion that was it didn't feel great. It was oftentimes painful. And then again, I worked with Catherine Rand at the University of Southern Mississippi, and then we moved this here back into the palm, and things got a lot easier very, very quickly. So glad you're loving the video, Stuart. I hope everything's great with you. And that actually brings us into the conclusion of this particular video. So this discussion was fantastic. Sounds like everybody really enjoyed learning about the batons and learning about why we do them. Also about the role of the conductor is something. Scott Anderson, I hope everything is fantastic. I know your Cardinals aren't playing right now, but baseball will be back eventually. Wonderful, wonderful to see you. So another video that we're going to be doing is a video about the role of the conductor. Now that's something that a lot of people are wondering about, like, hey, what do you actually do in there? So we're going to be talking about that as well with input from the major again, which hopefully we can put his video in there again, just like this one. Is fantastic to have his input. Very special thanks to Major Dustin Doyle at the, sorry, I'm reading the comments as we go. There we go. I'm reading the comments as well. So I'll thank him first. So, sir, thank you so much for your input. Commander Major Dustin Doyle, commander of the Band of the West, and based out of San Antonio, Texas. And wonderful to have him on this particular program. And hopefully he'll come back and do some more later. So we're going to skip up a couple of comments here. We'll address them here. Left-handed. Years ago by the teacher. 1. The ensemble aspects thing visually in certain places. Don't get work. Personally perspective. I think that's a really interesting perspective, is that, you know, maybe they just don't get work. Oh, left-handed, no thanks. So let me another discussion maybe for the role of the conductor. Maybe we can get into that as well. So Raphael, again, thank you so much for contributing. Margaret Flynn and John Flynn, thank you so much for watching as always. Scott Anderson, will quarantine is giving me time to work on the golf game. Well, Scott's left-handed, so he plays golf left-handed. So and Menon Dumichel, thank you so much for checking out the show here. Stuart Johnson, any tips on health of shoulder and elbows? That is an excellent question. I had to work for a year and a half to help my conducting be physically efficient, and as a result I lost all of my back pain and all of my elbow pain. So what I would recommend for people who are conductors who are having pain when they're conducting is get a teacher and send them videos of yourself from all of the angles and say, sir, ma'am, I'm having pain here and here. If you can go speak to them in person, find someone who's works with, we did a lot of the stuff with Alexander technique and how the spine is connected to everything else. And so if you can find someone who can help you with that in terms of teaching and help you be physically more efficient in what you're doing, that will help tremendously. It's like, honestly, it's like watching golf videos. So you're like, oh yeah, I'll try this. But the teacher isn't actually watching what you're doing. They're just, the YouTube teacher isn't watching what you're doing. They're just saying, oh, this is how you fix this like in 5 minutes or less, guaranteed, right? So if you actually physically can go or send your videos to a teacher who you trust and say, oh, please take a look at this. And if you have questions about who to talk to, please feel free to shoot me an email. You can give me a call, as always, Stuart. So it's conductingquestions@gmail.com, and that will help, because there's no substitute for having someone work with you, physically present with you, and say, oh, you should, oh yeah, your back is doing this. Oh, so one thing that I was doing was that I was conducting a lot like this way. So doing a lot of conducting this way. So one of the biggest and almost first things that we did was that my teacher was like, why are you doing that? I said, this thing. And she says, well, is it effective musically? I was like, well, no. She said, well, don't do that. So, okay, so then all of a sudden everything that I'm doing is has better posture, right? So getting involved with a teacher is really, really important. And if that is at all a possibility for you, please do so. So hopefully, Stuart, hopefully that gives you an idea about how I'm answering that question as well. Again, thank you so much for the interaction. This fulfills our mission, the Band of the West, which is honor, inspire, and connect. And this is the connection part of it. We love hearing from you. We love interacting with you. If you're watching this video on repeat, feel free to send any questions to conductingquestions@gmail.com. Now, next Monday is Memorial Day, so there's not going to be a live stream on this particular Monday. The next Monday will be the next one. However, on the Band of the West website, Facebook page, there's going to be loads of new content and fantastic content for Memorial Day. So I hope everyone has a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Check out the Band of the West Facebook page on Monday. You're not going to want to miss the content that's coming out. So again, this is Lieutenant Michael Flynn. I am with the Band of the West based out of San Antonio, Texas. If you have questions for me, go ahead and send them to conductingquestions@gmail.com. Thank you so much for checking out the stream, and wonderful to see so many of my friends in the comment section. It's great to see you, even if it's just virtually. My best to everybody, and hopefully we will see you in 2 Mondays. Next Monday, Band of the West Facebook page. They're going to have lots of stuff. Thanks for joining.